You are 69 years old, standing in a gravel parking lot next to a pickup truck. Older than half your employees, and a magazine has just called you the wealthiest man in America, but you don't act like it. You still clip coupons out of the newspaper before breakfast. You still get your hair cut at the same $6 barbershop you've used for decades. Because before any of this, you were a boy standing behind your father as he knocked on the doors of families and took their farms away. This is the story of how a boy who watched people lose everything built an empire on the idea of never overcharging anyone again. Level 1. The boy who watched people lose everything. You are born in a small farmhouse in Kingfisher, Oklahoma, in 1918, right as the world is surrounded by war debris and droughts. Your father started his career as a banker, but the war crisis turns that job into something crueler, foreclosing on farms and repossessing land from families who remind you of your own. You ride along sometimes and watch grown men down at your father's feet begging for one more month. You are just a kid, but you realize early on that money isn't just paper, it's survival, and that every dollar someone hands over to you is a dollar they fought to keep. Your family constantly moves during these years, chasing whatever job keeps your stomachs full, and you learn to read a new town fast. Who has money, who doesn't, and what people actually need instead of what they say they want. At home, you milk the family cows before sunrise and sell the remaining to neighbors for a few cents a jug. After school, you manage one of the busiest newspaper routes in town, waking before the sun to fold papers by streetlight, and on weekends you knock on doors selling magazine subscriptions to housewives who've already said no to 3 boys before you. By 13, you become the youngest Eagle Scout in the history of the state, not because someone pushed you, but because you already understand that showing up consistently, day after day, is worth more than being the smartest person in the room. This does not make you wealthy, but it makes you relentless, and it plants the seeds of a quiet obsession that never leaves you, the idea that a person selling something honest and at a fair price will always win in the end. Level 2. Learning the business from the inside. You work your way to the University of Missouri, waiting tables, lifeguarding, and taking any job that pays, because your family cannot afford this education alone. You graduate in 1940 with an economics degree and earn respect as one of the most well-liked young men on campus, the kind of person people naturally want to see as a leader. Instead of chasing a big city job, you take a role as a management trainee at J.C. Penney, earning barely enough dimes to survive, $75 a month, but every cent of that low wage teaches you a lesson no salary ever could. You learn the founder's own obsession: sell everything cheap, sell a lot of it, and let the volume do the work that a big markup strategy can barely keep up with. A lesson so simple that most of your future competitors will spend decades refusing to believe it. War disrupts everything. You marry a sharp, steady woman named Helen Robson in 1943, a partnership that will end up carrying more of your empire's risk than almost anyone realizes. You spend the next 2 years in the Army stationed stateside, restless the entire time to create something of your own instead of following someone else's orders and someone else's paycheck. The day you're discharged in 1945, you don't want a job anymore. You want a store with your own name attached to the risk. Level 3. The store that was losing money until you touched it. With $5,000 of your own savings and $20,000 borrowed from your father-in-law, you purchase a rundown Ben Franklin variety store in Newport, Arkansas, a store that's money is leaking out of its pockets every single day. The day you sign the papers, everyone around you thinks it's a reckless bet for a young couple with a child. You don't see it that way. You see shelves that are inaccurately priced and a town nobody has bothered to actually serve. You drive hours in every direction to buy goods directly from suppliers instead of going through the franchise, undercutting your own company's prices and passing the savings straight to the customer. You walk the aisles of every competing store you can find, studying what works, stealing ideas without shame, because you've already decided pride is a luxury that a small-town store owner can't afford. In just 3 years, you take that store from $80,000 in yearly sales to $225,000, turning it into the single best-performing Ben Franklin in a 6-state region. You are proving people wrong quietly. In one small town, nobody in the industry is keeping an eye on. A principle almost nobody in retail believes yet, that you can charge less and still walk away with more, simply because more people choose to walk through your door. Level 4. Losing everything you built. In 1950, your whole world turns upside down. Your landlord refuses to renew your lease, a lease you never thought to protect with a renewal clause, and hands the space over to his own son instead. All that blood, sweat, and tears invested in rebuilding a dying store into the most affordable retail store in the region, and none of it legally belongs to you because a single line missing from a contract just erased 5 years of your life. It's crazy to think how just missing one line from a big piece of paper can impact your life so drastically. You receive $50,000 for your fixtures and inventory, a fair price on paper, but it doesn't feel fair standing outside a building you no longer own, watching your own name come off a store you're not allowed to walk back into. Things turn crucial in a way you never talk about publicly. Your own mother passing away from illness in the middle of this exact crisis, forcing you to grieve and rebuild in the same breath, with no time to fall apart even when everything inside you wants to. You pick your family up and drive to a small town called Bentonville, Arkansas, with nothing but a hard lesson and a stubborn refusal to make the same mistake twice. This time, you sign a lease built to last 99 years, because you never again want a piece of paper to be the reason someone takes away what you built. Level 5. Turned down by everyone who should have believed in you. You open Walton's 5 and Dime in Bentonville and start over from nothing, but this time your younger brother Bud joins you, and the two of you begin opening one store after another in small towns most retailers won't even glance at, towns other men consider too poor and small to matter. You learn to fly your own small airplane, not for fun, but because it's the only way to check on stores scattered across 3 states without wasting entire days on the road, circling towns from the sky to spot your next location. By the early 1960s, you and your brother are operating 16 stores, the largest chain of independently owned variety stores in the U.S., built one small town at a time. But you're chasing a bigger dream now, one that keeps you up at night. You believe rural America is starving for lower-priced products, that small towns also deserve the blessing of the same discounts as big cities get, and that nobody has bothered to actually test that theory at a larger city scale. You bring this vision to the company that gave you your start, asking them to cut their margins in half for the sake of volume. They refuse, and every banker and supplier you pitch after that says the same thing. Small towns can't keep up with that kind of pricing. The math simply doesn't work. You listen to every single rejection, take notes on every reason they give you, and then you decide to bet your entire life savings testing your small town discount theory correct. Level 6. Building the machine nobody believed would work. On July 2, 1962, you opened the first Walmart discount city in Rogers, Arkansas, funding almost the entire thing yourself alongside your wife Helen, because no outside investor will carry the burden of risk with you. That same year, 2 much larger companies launched their own discount chains with real corporate money and real Wall Street backing behind them, and almost nobody expects the small operation out of Arkansas, run by a man with a plane and a pickup truck, to survive next to them. But what they don't realize is that the weight of people doubting you has brought you where you are today. You survive by avoiding the cities entirely, building stores in small towns everyone else considers too poor and too scattered to matter, then building your own distribution centers so trucks can restock a dozen tiny stores overnight instead of one big city store. You let your managers buy a stake in every new location, turning employees into part owners who work like it's their own money on the line, because it is, and that single decision quietly builds more loyalty than any salary ever could. By 1970, you take the company public, and suddenly ordinary clerks and stockboys who bought shares early are becoming quiet millionaires without ever leaving their small hometowns, watching a decision to invest a few $100s turn into a life they never expected. Level 7. The richest man who never acted like it. By 1985, Forbes magazine names you the richest man in the entire country, a title that would make most people buy a mansion, a jet, a new personality. You keep driving the same old pickup truck. You keep getting your hair cut at the same small-town barbershop for a few dollars. When reporters act shocked that a billionaire lives so humbly, you simply tell them you were never keeping score with money in the first place. You were keeping score with how many people walked into your stores and left with more than they expected for less than they feared. Even after being diagnosed with a bone marrow cancer, you keep visiting store openings, thanking employees by name, refusing to slow down the thing you spent your whole life building. You pass away in April of 1992, leaving behind more than 1,700 stores, over 200 wholesale clubs, roughly $50 billion in yearly sales, and 400,000 people whose paychecks trace back to a store that was losing money the day you first bought it. Today, that company is the largest business on the entire planet by revenue, feeding and supplying hundreds of millions of people across dozens of countries every single week. It started with a boy who watched families lose their homes, and it ended with a man who built an entire retail goods kingdom on the promise that no one walking through his doors would ever be overcharged again. You never set out to be the richest man in any room. You set out to prove that a small town, and the people inside it, deserve better prices than anyone thought they could get. And somewhere between a repossessed farm in Oklahoma and a five and dime with a 99-year lease, that's exactly what you built. So here's my question for you. What's the setback you're currently living through that might change your life entirely? Let me know in the comments, and for more life-changing stories, make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon below. And if you enjoyed living this journey of building an empire from nothing, there's another billionaire's rise waiting to be told.